The obituary had my name on it. I was at the kitchen table, cutting toast into neat squares, when I saw it on my phone. Black border. My photograph, 10 years out of date. Full name correct. Date of death, yesterday. I checked the calendar. I checked my pulse. Both were steady. Across from me, my wife stirred her coffee without looking up. "You should read it carefully," she said. No surprise. No confusion. Just instruction. I read every line. Survived by her. No mention of any investigation. Funeral arrangements already listed. A location I hadn't agreed to. I looked at her again. "Who filed this?" She took a slow sip. "These things happen. Clerical errors. Errors don't include burial details." I stood, took my coat, and drove to the bank. The clerk scanned my ID, frowned, then excused herself. A manager came back. "Sir, according to our system, you're deceased." My cards were declined. My accounts locked. My access revoked. I didn't argue. I watched. When my wife arrived 20 minutes later, she spoke before I could. "He's been confused," she said calmly. "We're handling it." She placed a hand on my arm like I needed guidance. I let her. But she never once asked how I felt about being dead. And that was when I understood. This hadn't just happened. It had already been decided. At the bank, I let her speak. I stood beside her desk, hands folded, while she explained my existence to a man half my age. "Clerical error," she said again, calm and practiced. "We've already contacted the registry." The manager nodded as if this were routine. He didn't ask me questions. He asked her. "How long has he been confused?" She gave a small, sympathetic smile. "A few weeks. It's been progressing." I didn't interrupt. I watched the phrasing. Not sudden. Not accidental. Progressive. That word stayed with me. I slid my identification across the desk anyway. Passport. Driver's license. Tax number. Documents I had maintained myself for 40 years as a civil engineer, every contract, every permit, every revision logged and dated. The manager glanced at them briefly, then pushed them back. "I understand, sir. But until the death record is corrected, we can't restore access." "Can't. Not won't." My wife placed her hand over mine. Light pressure. Containment, not comfort. "We'll handle it," she said. We left without my accounts. In the car, she made 2 calls. Not to the bank. Not to any registry I recognized. Short conversations. Minimal words. "Yes, it's confirmed." "No, he was with me." "We'll proceed." She ended both calls before I could ask who was on the other end. At home, nothing had changed. My chair was where I left it. My files were aligned. My briefcase still locked. But the air felt adjusted. As if decisions had already been made inside it. She moved through the kitchen with quiet efficiency. No panic. No urgency. She even asked what I wanted for dinner. "Something simple," I said. She nodded, already opening a drawer where we kept household documents. Too casually. "I'll need you to sign a few forms later," she added. "Just to speed things up." "From the registry?" I asked. "Yes." Too fast. I had spent decades reviewing contracts. Real corrections never arrived the same day. They required requests, confirmations, delays. Paper moved slowly unless someone pushed it in advance. I watched her set 3 documents on the table. Not official envelopes. No stamps. No covering letters. Prepared. I sat down across from them but didn't touch a pen. What exactly am I correcting? I asked. She smiled, thin, controlled. Just restoring what's already yours. Already. I looked at the dates in the corner of the first page. Filed 2 days ago. Before I died. She stopped taking calls in front of me. That was the first change. For years, she had spoken openly, family, errands, small complaints about neighbors. Now, every time her phone rang, she stepped into the hallway and closed the door halfway. Not fully. Just enough to suggest privacy without admitting it. Her voice dropped when she spoke. Short sentences. Confirmations. Yes. He's here. No, not yet. The second change came that same afternoon. Her brother arrived without calling. He didn't knock the way family does. He used the spare key. Walked in like the place had already been reassigned. He greeted her first. Not me. Then he looked at me, briefly, like checking inventory. You holding up? He asked. Not how are you? Not what happened. Holding up. I'm managing, I said. He nodded, satisfied, and set a folder on the table. Thick. Tabbed. Prepared. They spoke in the kitchen in low voices. I stayed in the living room and listened to movement, not words. Papers sliding. A chair pulled closer. Coordination. Not concern. An hour later, she called me in. We should take care of a few things today, she said. While it's fresh. Fresh. Her brother opened the folder and turned it toward me. Documents already flagged with adhesive markers. Temporary authorizations, he said. Standard procedure in cases like this. Cases like what? I asked. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Administrative confusion. I looked down at the first page. Signature line highlighted. Date already filled in. Tomorrow. Why tomorrow? I asked. In case processing rolls over, he said quickly. Too quickly. The third detail was smaller. But it stayed with me. On the second document, my name was printed correctly, full legal form. But the formatting was wrong. Middle initial placed where it never appears. A minor error. Except I had corrected that exact issue in official records 15 years ago. It doesn't reappear unless someone is working from an old copy. Or a template. I didn't sign. I'd like to review these, I said. My wife's expression didn't change. But her fingers tightened slightly on the edge of the table. Of course, she said. But we shouldn't delay too long. Delay. Not mistake. Not correction. Delay. That evening, after they went to the other room, I checked my study. I don't misplace things. My desk is arranged with measurable precision, angles aligned, spacing consistent. It's a habit from decades of structural planning. Order reveals interference. The top drawer was off by less than a centimeter. Inside, my property documents were not where I left them. They were there, but reversed. Someone had read them and put them back without understanding the system. I checked the registry online. Ownership status. Updated. 2 days ago. Transferred. My name still present, but no longer primary. I went back to the living room and sat down. I listened to them speaking quietly behind the door. And for the first time, the sequence aligned. The obituary. The bank records. The documents waiting for my signature. None of it started this morning. It had already been executed. This wasn't an error being corrected. It was a process being completed. I went back to the bank the next morning alone. Same manager. Same desk. This time I didn't argue the status. I asked for records. Print everything tied to the change, I said. He hesitated, then complied: transaction logs, account notes, system flags. Routine data. But routine data has timing. I sat in the lobby and read. The death marker wasn't entered yesterday. It was logged 5 days ago. I checked the timestamp twice. Same result. I felt the shift immediately. Not surprise, alignment. 5 days ago, I was at home. Dinner at 6. Television at 8. Nothing unusual. Except she had stepped out that evening. Said she needed groceries. I folded the papers and left. At the civil registry, I requested a copy of the death record. Clerk didn't question it. Printed it. Cause of death, pending verification. Reporting party, my wife. Filed 4 days ago. 1 day after the bank entry. I stood there longer than necessary, reading the same line. She hadn't reacted yesterday because she had already reported me dead. I went to my car and wrote the dates down. Bank, 5 days. Registry, 4 days. Publication, 1 day. Sequence. Not coincidence. I drove to the insurance office next. The policy was old. I had structured it myself: clear conditions, strict verification requirements. It wasn't something that moved quickly. The receptionist checked the file and paused. "There's an active claim," she said. "Submitted when?" I asked. 3 days ago. Before the obituary. Before I knew anything. I nodded once and asked for a copy. She printed the summary. Beneficiary, my wife. Status, under review. Attached documents included the same death record I had just seen. I stepped outside and stood on the pavement, letting the pattern settle. Report death. Flag bank. File insurance. Publish obituary. Each step layered over the last. Controlled. Timed. I went home without calling her. Her brother's car was already there. Inside, the folder was back on the table. Open this time. More pages added. They didn't hide it anymore. I walked past them without a word and went to my study. I opened my laptop and accessed the property registry again. Not the summary view. The detailed log. Every modification leaves a trace. The transfer I saw yesterday wasn't the first entry. There was an earlier one. Initiated 6 days ago. Pending status. Then finalized 2 days ago. I leaned back in my chair and closed my eyes for a moment. 6 days. Everything started before the bank. Before the registry. Before the insurance. The property moved first. I opened the document history. Digital signature attached. My name. I downloaded the file and zoomed in. The signature was perfect. Too perfect. Same pressure points. Same stroke width. No variation. Not written. Placed. I sat there, looking at it, and let the last assumption fall away. This wasn't about correcting a mistake. It wasn't even about declaring me dead. They had started by taking what I owned. Everything else came after to make it irreversible. I opened a blank document and began listing dates, actions, names. Then I stopped. Because one detail no longer fit the pattern. If the property transfer came first, then the death wasn't the goal. It was the cover. Part 5, Full Realization plus Decision Length, 1800 to 2200 characters. Requirements: full understanding of the betrayal/scheme/threat, remove doubt completely, tone shifts from passive observation to controlled action, show the decision through behavior, not speeches end with a cold, clear decision. I didn't confront them that day. Or the next. I let the routine continue. Breakfast at 8. Papers on the table. Her brother arriving mid-morning, leaving late afternoon. Quiet conversations behind half-closed doors. Documents shifting positions by a few millimeters each time I checked. I signed nothing. But I let them believe I would. That bought me 3 days. In that time, I built a record that didn't depend on memory. My lawyer filed a formal identity dispute with the registry. Not to reverse it, yet. Just to trigger a documented review. That created a timestamp outside their control. I requested certified copies of every filing tied to my name over the past 10 days. Different offices. Different clerks. No single point of failure. At the bank, I submitted a written challenge to the death flag. Again, not to resolve it. To force internal logging. Every step created friction. Every piece of friction left a mark. On the second day, I hired a forensic document examiner. I sent him the signature file and 3 verified originals. No explanation. Just a request for comparison. On the third day, my lawyer called back. They moved faster than usual, he said. Too fast. That helps us. How? I asked. Compression creates overlap. Overlap creates contradiction. That was enough. I invited them to dinner that evening. My wife accepted immediately. Her brother hesitated, then agreed. They thought I was done resisting. The table was set before they arrived. 3 plates. 1 folder. No wine. No unnecessary detail. They sat across from me. Comfortable. Expectant. Before we finalize anything, I said, placing my hands flat on the table, I reviewed the documents. My wife nodded. Good. Then we can. I opened the folder and slid the first set of copies toward them. Registry filing. Timestamp highlighted. 4 days ago, I said. Her brother glanced at it, then at her. A small movement. Not planned. I slid the next document. Bank log. 5 days ago. My wife's expression didn't change, but her hand stopped moving. Then the insurance claim. 3 days ago. Silence settled for a second. Not confusion. Calculation. Her brother leaned back slightly. We explained this. It's a clerical. I placed the next sheet on top. Property transfer. 6 days ago, I said. That stopped him. He looked at the page longer this time. Then at the signature. I didn't speak. I let him see it. Too precise. Too uniform. He didn't touch it. My wife tried to speak, but the timing was wrong. Her voice came in late. We needed to secure things in case. In case I died? I asked. She didn't answer. I reached into the folder and placed the final document on the table. Forensic analysis. Brief. Direct. Signature inconsistent with natural variation. Digitally applied. Her brother's posture changed first. Shoulders tightening. Breathing shallower. My wife didn't look at the paper. She looked at me. For the first time in days, she was trying to read me instead of control the room. I filed something this morning, I said. No one moved. Fraud investigation. Identity misrepresentation. Property transfer under false authorization. Her brother exhaled slowly. You're overreacting. No, I said. I'm documenting. I let that sit. Then I added the last piece. Copies were submitted to the bank, the registry, and the insurer. My wife's hand finally moved. Not toward the documents. Toward her phone. Then she stopped. Because she understood before she dialed. Anything she said now would be recorded somewhere else. Her brother stood halfway, then sat back down. "Let's talk this through," he said. But the tone had changed. No longer guiding. Asking. I closed the folder. "There's nothing left to discuss," I said. No raised voice. No emphasis. Just completion. No one reached for the papers. No one spoke again. The room held for a moment, balanced between reaction and consequence. Then it broke. Not with noise. With silence. The investigation moved faster than they expected. Her accounts were frozen within 48 hours. Not all at once, just enough to interrupt patterns. Transfers flagged. Access restricted. Questions asked by people she couldn't redirect. Her brother lost access to his practice a week later. Temporary suspension, pending review of submitted documents. His name attached to filings he couldn't explain without implicating himself. The property transfer was reversed quietly. Not immediately, but completely. Ownership restored to its original structure, with an added restriction that required dual verification for any future changes. They stopped coming to the house. No arguments. No messages beyond what their lawyer sent, short, careful, and late. I changed the locks anyway. The obituary was corrected last. A small notice, buried under routine updates. No apology. Just an amendment. I kept a copy of both versions. The original and the correction. Side by side. I didn't pursue anything beyond that. I didn't need to. They tried to erase me through paperwork. I responded with the same. But I made sure mine held. I kept my name. I kept my records. And I kept the part they underestimated. Control. What would you do if your life was rewritten without your consent? Leave your answer below.